Your cat just looked at you, opened their mouth, and talked back, and you probably smiled, said something else, and moved on with your day. But here's what you didn't realize. What just happened between you and your cat has never, in the entire history of the animal kingdom, happened between a cat and any other living creature. Not with other cats, not with animals they've lived beside for years, not even with their own mother after kittenhood. That sound, that specific response, was made for one audience only, you. But here's what makes this deeply unsettling to scientists. Your cat didn't inherit this. They weren't born knowing how to do it. Somewhere along the way, your cat made a psychological decision. They studied you, they tested sounds, they watched your face for reactions, and they built something from scratch, a language that exists only between the two of you. And they did all of this without you ever asking them to. So when your cat meows back at you, the real question isn't what are they saying? The real question is, what does it say about you that your cat decided you were worth inventing an entirely new language for? Because the answer will change how you see every conversation you've ever had with them. Go outside right now. Find two cats who have lived together for years. Sit down and watch them. You could wait an hour. You could wait all day. And in almost every case, you will not hear a single meow pass between them. Not one. They'll move around each other. They'll flick their tails. They'll hold eye contact for exactly 3 seconds and then look away. They communicate constantly through scent, through micro movements most humans would never notice. But vocally, between adult cats, almost complete silence. This isn't a coincidence. This is biology. Cats are not wired to meow at each other. Kittens do it. A kitten separated from its mother cries out. A kitten that's cold, hungry, or scared will vocalize. It's a survival tool, a way of saying I need you to the one creature keeping them alive. But the moment a cat reaches adulthood and no longer depends on their mother, that behavior disappears almost entirely. Their brain essentially files it away. They don't need it anymore. Except something strange happens when cats live with humans. The meowing comes back. Researchers at the University of Tokyo studied the vocalizations of domestic cats versus wild and feral cats over an extended period. Cats living closely with humans not only meow significantly more than cats without human contact, they develop a wider, more varied range of vocalizations over time. The longer a cat lives with a specific person, the more complex and distinct their vocal patterns become. Here's what that means in plain language. Your cat didn't just keep a behavior from kittenhood. They took a dormant tool, one their brain had essentially archived, and they rebuilt it, specifically for you. But why? This is where it gets psychologically fascinating. When researchers studied how cats interact with humans versus how they interact with other animals, they noticed something that stopped them. Cats use a completely different behavioral register with people than they do with other cats. With other cats, they rely on the communication system they were born with: body language, scent, silence. It works because other cats speak that language fluently, but humans don't. You miss the tail signals. You misread the ear positions. You walk past the scent markings without a second thought. To your cat, you are communicatively blind. You are, by their standards, almost impossible to read and even harder to reach. So they adapted. Animal behaviorist Dr. John Bradshaw, who spent years studying the relationship between cats and humans, found that cats essentially treat their owners as a unique social category. Not another cat, not a predator, not prey, something else entirely. And with that unique category came a unique communication strategy. Your cat observed you. They watched your face light up when they made sounds. They noticed you responded when they vocalized. They tested different pitches, different frequencies, different timing. And over weeks and months and years, they built something remarkable, a vocal bridge between their world and yours. And here is what makes this so different from anything else in the animal kingdom. Dogs bark, birds sing, dolphins click and whistle. But those vocalizations exist within their species. They evolved to communicate with their own kind. Your cat's meow, the one they use with you, the one they aim directly at your face when you speak to them, that didn't evolve. It was constructed individually, deliberately, by your specific cat for your specific ears. There is no other animal on the planet that does this. Not because they can't, because they don't decide to. Your cat decided to. And that word, decided, is important. Because what your cat did wasn't instinct. It wasn't training. No one taught them to respond to your voice. They watched you long enough to understand that you needed something they weren't born giving. And then quietly, without any fanfare, they gave it to you you anyway. That's not just behavior. Try something the next time you're around a friend who also has a cat. Listen to how their cat sounds, the pitch, the rhythm, the length of each meow. Then go home and listen to yours. They won't sound the same, not even close. And if you've lived with your cat long enough, you already know this without even thinking about it. You know the meow that means food. You know the one that means the water bowl is empty. You know the exact sound they make at 2 a.m. when they want you to lift the blanket so they can crawl underneath it. You know these things because your cat taught you. What most people never stop to consider is that the lesson went both ways. Animal behaviorist Dr. Suzanne Schotz spent years recording and analyzing cat vocalizations across dozens of households. What she found was something that fundamentally changed how scientists think about cat communication. Every cat she studied had developed a vocal repertoire that was unique to their specific home environment, specific to their specific owner. The cats weren't just meowing, they were speaking a dialect that only made complete sense to the person they lived with. Think about what that actually requires. For your cat to build a sound that only works on you, they had to study you. They had to watch your face every time they made a noise. They had to notice which sounds made you stop walking, which ones made you look up from your phone, which pitch made you soften your expression, and which one made you get up and walk toward the kip. They ran thousands of tiny experiments on you without you ever realizing you were the subject, and then they refined their vocabulary based on the results. This is not instinct. Instinct is fixed. Instinct is a bird building the same nest its ancestors built 10,000 years ago. What your cat did is something far more sophisticated. They observed a specific individual human, identified what that human responds to, and customized their entire vocal communication system around those findings. Researchers call this vocal learning through social feedback. It's a cognitive process that, outside of humans, is observed in dolphins, some primates, and certain bird species. Animals, widely considered to be among the most intellectually complex on the planet. Your cat is on that list. But here's the part of this that most people find completely unexpected. The language your cat built isn't just about getting what they need. The subject, tracking long-term cat and owner relationships, found something remarkable. The longer a cat lives with a person, the more their vocalizations begin to shift in emotional range. Early on, most meows are practical. I'm hungry. I'm at the door. I want to come in. But over time, new sounds appear. Sounds that don't correspond to any obvious need. Sounds that seem to show up specifically when the owner is upset or quiet or hasn't spoken in a while. Scientists believe these vocalizations are something close to emotional mirroring. Your cat isn't just talking to get something from you. At some point, they started talking because they noticed you needed to hear from them. And here's what makes this almost impossible to fully wrap your mind around. This language your cat created, it dies with your relationship. If your cat went to live with someone else, their new owner would have to start from scratch. The sounds that mean everything to you would mean nothing to a stranger. Because your cat didn't build a general communication system. They built one that only functions inside the specific bond the two of you have created together. There is a conversation happening between you and your cat that no one else on earth can fully translate. Not a researcher, not a vet, not even the most experienced animal behaviorist alive. Only you. Because only you were there for every single lesson, every test, every quiet moment when your cat watched your face and decided, slowly and deliberately, exactly what to say. Here is something that will change the way you hear your cat forever. The next time you say something to them, anything at all, watch what happens in the half second before they respond. Their ears shift first, rotating toward your voice like two small satellites locking onto a signal. Then their eyes find your face. Not your hands, not the food bowl, not the door, your face. And then, only after they've read your expression, your tone, your body language, they open their mouth and answer. That sequence is not random. That is psychology. When scientists began studying why cats specifically meow back during human conversation, they expected to find something simple. A conditioned response, a learned behavior tied to reward. Feed the cat after it makes noise. The cat makes more noise. Basic stimulus and response. But what they actually found was something that made them rethink the entire framework of how cats process human interaction. Cats don't just respond to your words, they respond to your emotional state first. A 2019 study published in Animal Cognition tested how cats reacted to their owners speaking in different emotional tones. Same words, completely different emotional delivery. What they found was striking. Cats didn't just respond more to positive tones, they physically oriented themselves differently. They adjusted their posture, They changed the frequency and length of their vocalizations based entirely on the emotional charge they detected in their owner's voice. They weren't listening to what you said, they were listening to how you felt when you said it. This is what psychologists call emotional attunement, and it's the foundation of something far deeper happening every time your cat talks back to you. Think about what emotional attunement actually means. It means your cat has been paying close enough attention to you for long enough that they can detect the subtle emotional shifts inside your voice before you've consciously registered them yourself. The slight tension when you're anxious, the flatness when you're exhausted, the brightness when you're genuinely happy. Your cat reads all of it, and their response, the meow they give back, is shaped by what they find. Dr. Kristen Vitale, a researcher at Unity College who has spent years studying cat attachment behavior, found that cats form what psychologists call secure attachment bonds with their owners, the same category of emotional bond that human infants form with their primary caregivers. And one of the core features of a secure attachment bond is something called contingent responsiveness. The caregiver responds to the emotional signals of the bonded individual in a way that says, I hear you, I see you, I'm here. When your cat meows back at you, that is exactly what they are doing. They are not simply making noise. They are completing an emotional loop. You spoke, they felt the weight of what you carried in that sound, and they responded in a way that closes the distance between you. This is why your cat talks back more on the hard days. You've probably noticed this without ever having a word for it. The days when you're quiet and heavy, your cat seems louder, more present, more insistent about being heard. That's not coincidence. That's attachment psychology operating exactly the way it was designed to. Your cat detects a disruption in your emotional baseline, the one they've spent years memorizing, and they respond to it, vocally, persistently, until you engage, until the loop closes. And here is what makes this almost unbearably profound when you sit with it long enough. Your cat cannot fix what's wrong. They don't know what a bad day at work means. They don't understand deadlines, or arguments, or the specific kind of exhaustion that comes from carrying too much for too long. But they know your voice. They know when it doesn't sound like you, and they refuse to let that go unacknowledged. So they answer, not because they have the right words, but because they understand, on a level that bypasses language entirely, that sometimes the only thing a person needs is to know that someone heard them. Not every meow your cat gives back is the same. You already know this. Deep down, you've always known this. But most people spend years living with a cat and never fully stop to decode what they're actually hearing. They register the sound, they smile or they respond, and they move on. What they miss is the detail sitting inside that sound, the pitch, the length, the urgency, the softness, because each one of those variables is carrying specific information that your cat is deliberately sending in your direction. This isn't guesswork. This is something researchers have been quietly documenting for years. Dr. Suzanne Schotz, a phonetics professor at Lund University in Sweden, spent nearly a decade recording and analyzing cat vocalizations specifically during human interaction. What she found was a structured pattern hiding inside what most people casually dismiss as just meowing. Cats, she discovered, modulate their voices with the same intentionality that humans use when shifting between emotional registers in conversation. The variation is not random noise. It is a layered signal system. And once you understand the layers, you cannot unhear them. So let's break down